Excellent. So, as you might have noticed, I'm not Tom. He's at Stewart. Do we know what he's doing? I think he's taking part in some event somewhere. He said he might join, dip in, but not able to host today. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Bridgman. I am the development producer with CACN, which generally means I set up training events and networking opportunities and mentoring schemes and things like that. But also generally help around the house in terms of fundraising bids and strategy and planning and budgeting and other thrilling things. Um, so this morning we have a packed program. We'll be looking a year ahead to looking 1100 years into the past. We will be considering concepts of home and identity in Whitehaven and West Africa. And we'll be bobbing down to Barrow to have a look at a project which is reflecting migration and refugee experience, largely through sound. So it's all going to be very exciting. And we shall kick off by talking to two councillors from Westmorland and Furness, Lorna and Mark, and they're going to tell us about Emont 927. We'll probably start with a little bit of a history lesson. So, Lorna, can you just give us a brief outline of why 927 AD, and therefore its 1100th anniversary next year? Why those are important dates?
Yeah. Okay. So in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, there is one paragraph which tells us that on the 12th of July, 927, very unusual to get an exact date in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. It's usually this year. Athelstan, the king of Wessex and Mercia, met with four other kings of named kings: Albert, the king of Alba, the king of Strathclyde, a king of small part of Wales, and Eldred, the lord of Bamber. And they met together and swore oaths. That's what they did. And then after that, Athelstan was known as the king of the English, and he essentially ruled over the whole area that is now roughly pretty well England. And so
Yeah.
it's a highly significant date. It's known as the birthday of England. And you're like, oh yeah, great, child's history of Britain, brilliant. And then they say, well, they know where he met as well, right? Okay, yeah, he met at Emont. Emont? Yeah, that bit, Emont Bridge, just to the south of Penrith. And you're like, oh, highly significant event. Um, right in the middle of Cumbria. Oh my goodness, we we need to do something about this.
Can I just pause a second? Stuart, it's lovely to see you, but you're appearing in front of the map for
Yes,
some reason.
you're obliterating Wessex. Not a good thing. Anyway, so
There
this
we
is
go.
yeah.
Lovely.
So to give you an idea, this is a map of Britain about 900. It was after Alfred, when Alfred had died, and then Edward, his son, took over, and then Athelstan's the grandson. So you can see there's Wessex, Mercia, a large chunk of the Vikings, the pink, and then Northumbria hanging on up in what is largely Scotland now. Um, so by 927, the beginning of everything pink had whittled down to the area around York and then a path through to the Irish Sea across North Lancashire, because the Viking who ruled York also ruled Dublin. So and then beginning of 927, there were fiery lights in the northern sky, and the king in York died, and Athelstan was the first one to get there. So he took over York, and then he called a meeting of all the other kings. You can see Strathclyde, Alba's the bit that stuck above the map, and then part of Wales. And then Bamber, you can see there, that's where the Lord Eldred came from, and they all met. You can see roughly where the Emont is at where the edge of Strathclyde and the bit of no man's land that was possibly Viking, possibly Mercia at that point. Yeah, so that's why it
So,
was such a useful meeting point.
okay.
Next
So,
slide.
so fast forward to 927, that map basically the pink bit's all gone, and
Yeah.
so that becomes the land of the Angles.
Yeah, the Angles and the Saxons together, and Northumbria is just about to be engulfed by Athelstan by his chit-chatting to Ethelred to Eldred at Emont.
Okay, so go on to the next slide. So, you've noticed this significant point in history. What are you thinking about doing to celebrate it?
So we thought there's the whole, we could do England was founded, rah rah rah, or we could celebrate the cultures of everybody that was there, all for all the kings that were there, and that was also the foundation of Great Britain and the United Kingdom.
Yes.
So that's sort of the idea.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be said that that wasn't then kind of a done deal and settled. That England, as constituted then, kind of there
Oh
was
no,
all sorts of
no,
changes
no,
over
no.
future
There was
years. Yeah.
there was a lot more killing, but we're ignoring the killing. This is a celebration that's not a celebration of a battle, which is also unusual. It's a celebration of a meeting, a peace conference,
Mhm.
which we think is a good thing rather than just going. He did have his battles as well. He was also good at killing people. Yeah. So if we get on to the next slide, this is the man on the left. Um, this is a picture that was painted in a gospel at the time of Athelstan. He was quite a good publicist. This is him attaching himself to St. Cuthbert, who was a big saint, a big northern saint. So he's trying to attach this part of the realm. And significantly, you can see he's wearing a crown. He was the first British monarch to be crowned with a crown. Before that, everybody had they were just invested, as it were, with oaths and so on. And the headgear there was probably some sort of helmet. He went back to the Roman emperors and Charlemagne and said, and he invented his own crown. And this is very specifically the crown. And this is also what's shown on his coins. So this is how he wanted himself to be seen. He was, yeah, aggrandizing, a big warlord, but with a vision of a people, all the English speaking peoples being together, as it were. The next slide. Yeah, so at Emont, you can see why it's a meeting place as well, because it's an easy place to spot when you're riding across a landscape that's just featureless. There's two henges. The one on the left is King Arthur's Round Table, which looks much better from the air. On the ground, it looks flat. And then the middle bit is Maberhenge, which on the ground is much more impressive because it's these huge mounds of stones, and you walk into the middle of it, and it completely surrounds you, and it's quite a peaceful little spot. It's quite atmospheric. And then on the right, there's the meeting of the waters, which is what Emont actually means, and that's where the Lowther and the Emont meet. So, and to the left of the castle, which is of course far too late. It's just sort of 1300 or something, useless. To the left of that, there's actually a Roman fort. So the theory is that possibly they actually met in the Roman fort, or maybe Henge, or anyway, there's various places we can hook into and use in the celebration. Next slide, please. So this has got the boring bit with all just the list. So we've got a list of things that we're currently working through organising. So there's a conference, big reenactment, living history, everybody dressed up and so on. And that's over the main weekend. On the day, we're hoping we've invited the king, and so there'll be a much more pared back, short ceremony, something like that, maybe Henge, whatever we're permitted to do. There's three strands. So we're doing the big weekend, then there's over the year. So we've got school engagement, Penrith Museum, and then the further talks in Penrith, and not just the conference on the big weekend. So that's sort of engaging the whole year. And then there's things that we want to leave for future tourists, because one of the big things is that we want to pull people into Eden. We want busloads of Americans coming around here saying, "Is this the place? Is this where Athelstan was?" This is our dream. So we've got a community tapestry, which Julie might be interested in. We're looking for stitchers even now. Um, and then a new footpath, which is just stitching together existing footpaths and a bit of road. So that works quite well. That will be from the meeting of the waters to Dacre, because Dacre was also possibly important. It had an abbey there, and later writings, 200 years later, said, oh, something happened at Dacre as well.
Can we just unpack a couple of other things? So what the conference, what's that going to be looking at and considering?
It's mostly academics who specialise in that era. So it's the whole weekend conference. I think there's four big talks each day. So we've got like Sarah Foote, who's the professor of ecclesiastical history at Oxford. A couple of other academics like coming down from Scotland to sort of cover the Scottish angle. Someone who's big on coins, Rory Naismith. So there's that, and then there's a couple who writers. So it's pitched at the National Trust member, interested in history, but not necessarily particularly academic. Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more about the school's engagement?
Yeah. So that's in preparation because obviously we've got to set it up before September. So they've got it in that we've got 13 schools, which are the ones immediately around because we don't have the money to invest in more. And the idea would be they'd be engaged throughout the year with people going in with projects like making shields, so that hopefully we can have a shield wall of pupils if the king comes. So anyone who can go in and engage with things of the time, because there's not much in the actual event. All we know is it's just trying to give the idea of very early medieval period, what it was like then, and trying to engage them in that. So any sort of project that could engage their interest. There's two secondary schools and then 11 primary schools. So yeah.
So yeah,
All
the,
right.
this is the wider activity that's being proposed by other people other
Yes, that's
than
right. So
the
there's
council.
other community groups or tourist destinations around the area who want to be involved with this. So it just makes the whole thing much bigger without us having to organise it all. So yeah, so we've got already got these commitments. Um, yeah, and then we're organising a big website that all everybody's events and so on will be put into the website, one big calendar, and then we don't clash with each other is the other point with that we sort of share out the times.
And, and it has to be said that it has been noticed further afield that there's a birthday of England coming up. So there's activities in the south of England that are also looking to commemorate the event and Athelstan's achievements.
Yes, and the reenactment of the play of the Five Kings in Broomhall is from a southern group called the Royal Society of St George, and they have a website called The Birth of England, and it's very much more heavily based on it being all about England. But that's fine. It's all within the umbrella of the whole event, and we're working with them. Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, yeah, I was going to say you're looking for more input, aren't you?
Yeah, well, so it can be anything like, people who could help with the schools project and do things with schools but then we've also while we were going through all this, we had lots of ideas and we just don't have the time or the expertise or anything like that to follow any of these up. So yeah, say I mean a poetry competition could be quite easy in some ways, but it's just a thing. And then the monument to Athelstan, that is something again that's being pursued quite heavily by national figures. There's a national committee being set up by an MP, Alex Burkhardt, who is wanting a monument, and David Woodman, the historian, is really pushing that. And then Tom Holland, the chap of the Rest is History, the podcaster, and Michael Wood, who's a television historian, actually came up here in December and did a piece for Radio 4 where some of us were interviewed and so on about this. And they're also very big on there ought to be a monument, and it's just very expensive, and we're not really capable of even commissioning something that would be really nice. If you see what I mean. Um, so but we think it ought to be here rather than in one of the other Athelstan places, because he's attached to Malmesbury and he's attached to Tamworth where he was born, and he's attached to Kingston where he was crowned, and they all have statues and things like that. So we think there ought to be something here. And as I say, it could be alongside the footpaths that we've identified as the Athelstan Way, because that's partly along the Emont, and it would just be a question of getting hold of the farmer and so on, all these agreements. But and then that food competition, we've got so many Michelin starred restaurants in Cumbria. Yeah, I just think,
Well, I think we can all get behind the ale and sausage. And I think there are certainly people on this call. There's at least one storyteller who might be interested in something connected with this, and filmmakers.
yeah,
Alice might
filmmakers. I've
be
noted, I've
into it.
noted Anne's name down.
Yeah, well, and Stewart is a professional filmmaker. Yeah, so
Right.
hopefully this is. I
Yeah,
mean, part of the point of you coming on today is you're hoping you're going to spark some ideas and
absolutely. Yeah,
engagement and offers
yeah.
from other people.
Yeah, we're just counsellors. We're not really event organisers or cultural people or even historians, and we've had to learn all this on the hoof. So I'm a civil engineer actually, so very very prosaic. Um, yeah, so yeah, we're looking for enthusiasm, input, and anything that could really put this area of Cumbria on the map. Yeah.
You mentioned
So.
the historian Michael Wood there, Lorna.
Mm.
He made a great TV documentary series in the 80s called In Search of the Dark Ages, and there's a whole episode about Athelstan, and he spends a lot of time at Emont Bridge um,
Yeah.
and talks
Yeah.
about the Cumbrians and stuff, because obviously Strathclyde was also called Cumbria, depending on who you ask or what point in history.
Yes, yes, and he's very keen on the Dacre angle, which is why we're starting having to bring Dacre in. He thinks that although William Malmesbury, who was the historian in 12 something or other, who wrote that down, he believes him. He thinks it goes back to an older source. So we're having to. That's why we're bringing in Dacre to because Michael was very enthusiastic about it when he spoke to us. Yeah, there are a lot of historians who are coming up to give the talks at the conference, or to come in across the summer into Penrith just to give a weekend talk. There's a lot of enthusiasm.
So, Pete Hunter asked, is there a budget? I.e., do you have some money that obviously you've committed stuff, I guess, to things that you're already working on, but is there money available for people coming up with bright ideas?
Um, Probably not. That's the trouble. We ourselves are applying into Lottery Heritage Fund to fund the ideas we've got, and we will hopefully back them up in the event that with some council money. But beyond that, the council is going, absolutely not. You're on your own. So we're hoping to get sponsorship for some of the other ideas we have, local businesses, I mean, things like, having the Athelstan Ale, hope that will pay for itself. And then the others that are coming in, like doing the quilts, they're doing it off their own bat, that sort of thing.
So, if people came up with projects that would fit in with your schemes and embellish them, um, is there still time to kind of get that on the menu, if you like, for the fundraising, so you can put the whole package forward to funders?
Um, Well, for the Heritage Lottery, probably not, because we've already done the initial inquiry for that. But there will be. We are also then, after we've got that out of the door, we're going to go around and looking for other funding. And yes, at that point, we could bring in other ideas, and as well the sponsorship as well. We're sort of trying to give a list of projects to like local hauliers and things like that, 'cause it's all about travel, isn't it? And meeting and, you know, at the crossroads of Britain and everything, whether lorry companies would give us money, and the national highways who are making such a mess of the A66.
Rachel says sounds like a really exciting project. And how do we get in touch to discuss ideas?
Yeah. So Mark and I are both at westmorlandandfurness.gov.uk. So we'll put our emails in the chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that will be lovely.
Chris,
Yes.
one of the things that we're looking at doing is at the end, because obviously we're doing the big push at Reg Ed and the reenactment and everything else. Throughout the summer, we're going to have talks every Saturday at the parish rooms from different authors, academics, archaeologists, discussing the times, Athelstan, and everything else. And then we're hoping that to finish that on the bank holiday weekend. I know Penrith Town Council are going to put something on at that weekend, but also we're looking at putting some sort of event on the Saturday. We'll be going for Arts England funding. So there could be time if anyone's got any ideas. We could incorporate it into the arts funding sort of application. Because on that day, we're looking at possibly having sort of like a big street party for everybody that's been involved, all the school children. They can come dressed in their early medieval costumes and their shields, and we're looking to have street performers and music. A couple of ideas Lorna said, we're looking at possibly having a poetry competition, music, or an art competition where people can do sort of anything from that time, early medieval. And another idea we're looking at is perhaps trying to get the poet laureate to commission a poem for today, because when Athelstan met at Emont, a poem was produced back then that was circulated around the country. So we're looking at doing sort of things like that. So any ideas anybody's got for poetry, music,
Right.
artwork, that'd be
The
fantastic.
door is open, and Lorna
Yeah.
has put your contact details in the chat for both of you. Absolutely fascinating and a very rich field to continue to explore, I would say, and I'm sure it sparked some thoughts in lots of people on this call. And this call is recorded, and people will be watching it again next week. And also, obviously, CACN will publicise the opportunities. Great to have you on, both of you. Thank you very much indeed, and Helen for flagging it up in the first place. Right, thank you. Let's move on from the founding of England, which incorporated some of Cumbria, but not all of it, down over to the west coast to Whitehaven, which I think at that time would still have been part of the Strathclyde Kingdom. And Anne Blankson-Hemans has been working at Rosehill for the last couple of years as an artist in residence. And Stuart, shall we just play the trailer to promote the culmination of that work? Hello, Anne. People will probably recognise some bits of Whitehaven there and bits that plainly weren't Whitehaven. So tell us about the overall project that you've been doing at Rosehill for quite some time now.
Yeah, sure. What it is, I've been working with them for a couple of years, and the first 2 years was doing a lot of art in the community, working with various groups of people, adults and adults with special educational needs and children, and, doing chalk. If you ever came to, uh, I can't remember what it's called, but there was one festival we did in August, and if you saw somebody crawling around on
Harbourfest,
the
was it?
ground, say again.
Harbourfest?
Arborfest, yes. If you saw that person crawling around on the ground doing chalk art with children, that would have been me. So I did various things with Rose Hill. And then last year they said, we would give you some funding, but come up with a project of your own. And so this had been something that had been of particular interest to me because I moved to Whitehaven nearly 6 years ago. And at the time, I hadn't realized that there was a history between Whitehaven and Ghana in West Africa, where I
I
was
think you're
born.
frozen.
I'm frozen?
Is that just me?
Am I frozen?
No, no,
You're
you're
okay.
right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Chris is frozen. Yeah. Shall I carry on?
Yeah,
Carry
carry on,
on.
Anne.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know at the time when I moved here that there was some history between Whitehaven and Ghana and West Africa. And the history unfolded as in a lot of, it was probably one of the largest ports, and probably the second, maybe the third largest. A lot of ships sailed from Whitehaven to West Africa, to what used to be the Gold Coast, did a lot of trading, but picked up people, enslaved them, and took them over to the Caribbean. And from there, particularly to Antigua, they joined in the working in plantations and then bringing back to Whitehaven rum and sugar. And so, because I'm an artist and because I sit at the harbor painting a lot of the time, people come and they chat with you. And so, this is how I learned about the history of Whitehaven. And then I was pointed to the rum story where I could learn a bit more. So, when I was asked to do the project, the first thing that came to me was this thing of passion, for me, because I started to become interested in one, sitting at the hub, I started to reimagine what it was like in the late 1700s, the 18th century, with boats moving up and down, barrels of rum probably being rolled around on molasses and ropes and sailors and people and just general noise. I started to reimagine that. And then I started to think about how they would have transferred over to West Africa and then to the Caribbean. And so the project became one of asking questions about what would have been going on at the time. And then it drew me onto the question of what home is for people. When people get moved around, where does home become? And then it moved on to a question of what belonging is. Where do you feel you belong if you've moved around? Because I realized that people move around for various reasons. Some move voluntarily, like I did to Whitehaven. I came under no duress at all. Some people get moved, like the big slave trade, because they were forced to move. And then the previous year, when I was chatting with a lot of people during Multicultural Week, I was talking with some refugees, and there was a young Afghan man whose story particularly sort of held me. And I realized that people move because of war, because of famine, because home no longer becomes a safe place for them. And when they do that, where do they actually feel they belong? And so that whole thing culminated in this project, where I started to examine the movement, migration, what home is, and what does belonging mean? Where do you feel you belong? And I thought I would present it. First of all, I was inspired to write a few poems. I'm discovering things about myself at my lofty age of 65, I think I am, where I didn't know I could do things. And I wrote three poems based on home and belonging, and decided that I could present this as a film, which was a bit of a challenge because I never filmed it or edited anything in my life before. It was a big challenge, but the whole thing has culminated in a film which includes the three poems, but it also includes a lot of chat, interviews that I've spoken with people and asked them that question, what does home mean to you? And I've had various answers. The film doesn't actually answer that question of home. It's a bit too layered and a bit too complex, but it gets people thinking about what home means to you. So I've done that, and along with that, I created a triptych painting again, with the Whitehaven reimagined, modern day Cape Coast, which in Ghana, where the ships would have sailed, and also one where I'm trying to get a street scene of Whitehaven where everybody just basically living happily ever after.
And this is going to be,
Because there's a sense of belonging. Yeah, sorry.
sorry, and this is going to be launched. This kind of the culmination of this is launched
Yeah.
next week.
That's right. It's launched as an exhibition. So there's going to be an exhibition of some of my own paintings. There's going to be the triptych, which I'm working on. and also some of the work that I've done in the community with some of the people in the community. But the exhibition actually starts on the 24th of March and it runs for a month until the 24th of April. But there will be a seated viewing of the film on the 31st of March at Rose Hill. And it's just so that, we can, if anybody has any questions, we can have like a Q&A session where I'll be present and then people can sort of we can have a chat about it. The exhibition will be rolling on screens at Rose Hill, I think near the bar at Messel's bar. But I won't be there all the time, But this is a specific seated screening that we'll be having on the 31st of March at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Stuart's just popped some details in chat
Yeah.
about that. And yes, just tell us a little bit more about your family links with West Africa that you've drawn on in this project as well.
Okay. Well, in Ghana, where I was born, I was born in a place called Kumasi, but we sort of trace our lineage, our inheritance through our ancestors. So I traced, I know that I'm from Cape Coast, which is where the slave, and I think in the trailer you'll have seen the castle. The castle was built by the Swedish in the 1600s, but by the time of the slave trade, it had gone through various um, colonizations, the Portuguese and then finally the British. And so I identify with Cape Coast. That's where my ancestors are from. I wasn't born there, but that's where my ancestors are from. And when I came to England in the 80s, sometime in the 80s, but I have always called Ghana home, even though I have a UK passport, because we have this layered experience, and my influences, my culture, and everything is and my roots are in Ghana. So that's how I saw, the question. But living here in Whitehaven, I call it home as well. I call home, this is a place where I can kick off my shoes and be who I am. And so I have this layered experience, if you like, So my upbringing has been in Ghana, but I moved here to Whitehaven and I call here home as well.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
We can show a short, I think it's part of the film, which
Yeah.
incorporates some of your poetry. So let's, if Stuart's got that lined up, we can enjoy that now.
Where is home? Is it the place we're born? The land we leave behind? Where tides of hunger, war, or hope carry us elsewhere? Is it the place we rebuild? Where our hands learn new work, our tongues learn new sounds, and we stitch pieces of ourselves into unfamiliar streets? Or is it the life we remember? Families living side by side, breaking bread together. A mother's smile, the first light of morning. Children playing amongst quince and apple trees. Or does it live far away, in the land of our ancestors, whose names are woven into our blood, whose stories reach for us across oceans, reminding us that we belong to more than one shore? Is home given or chosen, or can it be lost and remade? Or is it the key we still carry, the only memory of the door it once opened?
Lovely. I think as a first-time filmmaker, I'm sure you are and should be very proud of that.
Thank you. Yes, I am. I feel proud because it's taken a long time. It's taken an awful long time. I should just say about that particular poem was inspired by um, a young Afghan man I was speaking with last year during Refugee Week. They called it week. I think Rosehill called it Multicultural Week. I asked him what home meant to him. That question, and that's in the film as well. You know. And I have some footage, because I filmed him speaking. And basically, he painted this idyllic picture of, of his house in Afghanistan, flat roofed, family together. First person you saw when you came into the house was his mother, and she was smiling. And, he lived there with his brothers and their wives, and had quince and apple trees and children playing. That's where that poem came from. But I was really touched by it, really, really touched because it occurred to me that, sometimes people have to leave, what I call a beautiful home and have to move away from it because that place is no longer safe. And then oftentimes they have to move to places where they're not always welcome, but they do the best with the space that they have, and it was this particular story that inspired me to write that particular poem. But that's all in the movie. So there are three poems in the film. And I think that's the second one, but that's the inspiration behind that one. Yeah.
Are you in your studio at the moment? Is
Yes.
that where you are? Yeah. So
Yeah. Can
what
you?
we haven't seen is any of your painting. I don't know
All
if
right. Yeah. Yeah.
is that easily viewable now?
Well, I'm using my Mac, so I can see if I get up. You might just about see this one here. I can take off the wall. I can't turn the Mac screen on. This is one that this is of a fisherman. Can you see that? Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
There we
we
go.
can.
This is a
Oh,
fisherman. This is from Ghana. I paint a lot, I still, even though I've lived here since the 80s, still paint a lot in Ghana. I don't know if I move around, it will show you. They're sort of all hanging on the wall,
yeah. Oh,
so
it's just nice to get a little flavor of your. Oh, there you
yeah.
go. Your
I can see whether I can turn.
well.
I hope it doesn't
Anyway,
move. Yeah. That's a portrait of me in the background there. I don't know if you
right.
can see, that's my motto, genius at work, do not disturb. Yeah.
People have to go along and see the big work at Rose Hill.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating and lovely project. Thank you very much. Amy's asking, where is your studio?
I'm in Cleator.
Oh, right. So not
Yeah, I'm in
the
Cleator. The Phoenix Enterprise workshops
yeah.
behind the town square. That's where I am.
Oh,
Please, I would love for you to be there to come and see it. Anybody that's in the area, it's at Rose Hill in Whitehaven, and it's free. Don't have to pay anything to attend, but because I'd like to know how many are attending, if you can sign up with the Eventbrite link that we've put down there on the screen, yeah, I would be ever so grateful.
lovely.
Yeah.
Any questions? We need to move on fairly soon, but if anybody's got a burning question for Anne, apart from where is her studio, um, do shout up.
Janet, Chris, Janet.
Hello, Joe.
Thanks, sorry, Joe. Janet's got a question, Chris.
Right. Thank you. Go ahead, Janet.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, and that's absolutely fascinating. I work for Multicultural Cumbria, and we work a lot with asylum seekers and refugees, as well as wider diaspora. We have our big event coming up in a month's time on the 18th of April, Culture Bazaar. And I know you're going to be very busy because that's going to be in the period that you've got your exhibition on. But I was wondering if there was any link up we could do with the work that you're doing as well.
Absolutely, yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, once the exhibition is up from the 24th, and I do we have the screening on the 31st, I'll be in and out of Rose Hill, so yes, I'm pretty sure I can make some time, yeah.
Brilliant. I'll drop my email in the chat and
Thank you.
we'll see if we can link up.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Anne. And yes, I certainly look forward to seeing the exhibition once it's up.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's a very nice segue into our final item down in Barrow, because that is very much about the experience of refugees and emigration. Meg Dawson, who is down there. Hello, Meg.
Hello.
Hello. So you're at Artgene. You've only fairly recently started at Artgene, haven't you?
Yeah, I just started in January actually, so not too long, but it's been a very busy couple of months. So lots of things I've got done, feeling very at home in our very green offices.
Yeah. I know. So tell
Yeah,
us
I wanted
about
to.
Mass. Yeah.
Sure. So Mass is an exhibition that we're getting into the gallery next week. I'm just going to send to the chat our lovely poster that has some details, as well as the artist's website if you wanted to have a look while I'm speaking, or save that and have a read later. But essentially, it is a body of work, sound work and sculpture, and some walks that was developed by a pair of artists called Concrete, Tristan and Ray, that are down on the south coast of the UK. But it started in 2020, where the artists were based in Sweden, working with a group of Ukrainian refugees. And kind of the first stage of creating the work, they were recording testimonials from these refugees. It's quite similar to what Anne was just talking about, kind of their experiences of having to leave, and what that journey was like, and how welcome they feel now, and kind of what they're wishing they maybe brought or didn't bring, and what are the next stages post their migration, essentially. So this was a series of written and audio testimonials that were collected, and some positive, some, as you can imagine, very negative experiences. And Tristan and Ray Concrete put together this kind of archive of different refugee experiences. And with all of the sound recordings, they worked with an artist, kind of engineer mastermind called Lomond Campbell, who created a series of sound machines, which is what you can kind of see in the poster there. I wonder whether we have that little video that I'd sent to you. I think that would be a good one to have on in the background.
Stuart.
There should be the one that I'd sent over that had no sound. These are going to play a bunch of sound in, but that's totally fine. So the refugee testimonials that were collected, they were kind of put through these amazing generative sound machines where all of the voices blend and move with each other to create something that sounds kind of halfway between a choir, something quite choral, hence one of the one of the definitions of mass, but also something that sounds quite similar to a siren, something that was relating to all of these overhead missile sirens in Ukraine. So the other kind of way of interpreting the title of mass could be Make a Stand, which was the first kind of iteration of the first name of this work, about bringing all of these voices together to create a really powerful declaration of the refugee experience. So since 2020, that project has expanded out quite massively, and Tristan and Ray have worked in various places across the UK, Yarmouth, Brighton, and now they're working with refugees from loads and loads of different countries. I have the list of all of the different places.
Can you just tell us a bit about sorry, just while we look at these amazing yellow machines?
Yeah, so these were the sound machines that were made by Lomond Campbell. They're kind of made of old recording equipment and odd technologies, and they take the sounds and kind of stretch them and change them, and that's what blends them together to make this kind of choral music, this siren-y sound. So in the exhibition, there'll be 3 of these machines. They'll be playing this sound. There'll be a chance to read the direct testimonials from refugees who've been part of the project so far. And then this sound as well has been recorded, and we'll take it on a walk. So on the Friday the 20th and Sunday the 22nd, we'll have some walks along Walney Promenade that are just about an hour and a half long, some walking, and then we'll go to allotment soup on Walney and chat and warm up with tea, etc. But we'll have these big speakers on Walney Promenade that will play out this sound, and we'll walk along the coastline listening to these amazing voices. It's going to be a strange experience to have this siren-y sound right opposite BAE. Worried people are going to think we're getting a bit nucleared, but I think it'll be fine. All the necessary paperwork's been submitted, so people know it's not a nuclear meltdown.
This project is they've kind of installed this project, if you like, in two previous places, haven't they? Down Portland in
Yeah,
Dorset
there's
and
Portland, Yarmouth, and Brighton, I
okay.
believe.
Mhm.
So it's been across the country and it's made it up to us. We had a really good session last night with a group of refugees that we know from Furness Refugee Support, where we hosted them for dinner, introduced them to the project, and we're hoping that we might get some local, some hyper local stories that we can add to the sound piece as well. And either that sound will make it into the exhibition next week, or it will be added to the archive. And as the work moves throughout the country, these voices from Barrow will be taken along with it, and more people can listen in the future.
So do you know where else it's going to go?
Off the top of my head, no. I think it's probably a funding thing. I'm sure they would love to be able to continue it. The hope is to have the project have a really long life, and artists are hoping as well to be able to make a kind of online archive of all of the sounds so that people can kind of log on and listen to the testimonials without having to be in an exhibition. But that's a bit that's sort of in the works still.
I think they have I think they have an application in with Creative Scotland. Because of Gomeon's connection with Scotland, they definitely want to take it there, Chris, I think. Yeah.
Yes. And so just remind me, how long does it run until?
Yeah, so it opens next Thursday. So we'll do an opening on Thursday evening, Thursday the 19th, which will be from about 6:15 until just after 8 o'clock. It's totally free, of course. There'll be drinks and food to get a chance to listen to the sound. Then the walks on the Friday and on the Sunday, they're free as well. And the exhibition runs until Friday the 27th. So just for the week. So you're gonna run down and catch it whilst it's here. Definitely.
Now Joe's put in chat a link that says we're collecting new stories. So if people go on that, what will they? Is that inviting people to speak their stories?
Yeah, so this gives you a bit more information about if people would like to submit their stories and their experience to the project. I think what would be best is if people wanted to submit something, they could send an email to the inquiries email at ArtGene, and we can forward you straight to the artist. Or I was thinking as well to Janet, I will also send you an email, and maybe this is something that Anne and Janet and I could link up on as well. I think there's definitely more people in Cumbria that would be interested in being part of this project, definitely. Oh yeah, it's got the list on there of the people that they've worked with: Cameroon, Zimbabwe, Balochistan, Iran, Ukraine, Syria.
Oh, amazing.
All over the place.
Yes. As you say, well, hopefully some links made through this call will contribute some more material.
That would be fantastic.
It relates to Anne's work there, and Janet is an invaluable contact there as well. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions? I can't necessarily see everybody, but just shout if you want to.
Yeah, I'll also put in the chat the link where you can book onto the walks. So these would be about half an hour of walking along these speakers along the coast of Walling, which is a lovely view actually. And then we'll head up to our community growing space on Walney Islands called Allotment Soup. We've got a big polytunnel there, and we'll have hot drinks and a kind of afternoon tea situation. So there'll be a chance to chat and reflect on the work and meet new people. So that'll be really lovely as well, both on the Friday, the 20th, and the Sunday, the 22nd.
And that's free, but you should book, is that right?
It's free. If you can book it, helps us know how many biscuits to buy.
Okay, crucial. Okay, thank you so much for that. It sounds like a fascinating experience for anybody who can get down there.
Definitely. It's going to end up being quite an immersive exhibition, I think. The sound is quite big, it's quite loud, and it's very emotive. It's quite heavy and lovely. Sort of has that impression of being within a big group of people that are kind of singing, but in a very sort of heavy, beautiful, emotional way. So
and also really protesting. Exciting. I think it's
Definitely
important. I think the artists have protest in mind I mean, obviously we're a charity, we can't be party political, but I would say it was a political piece with a small p. This is
Definitely.
a welcome, and in Barrow at the moment, as you might know, we've got, a challenge from the far right to our local mosque. So the more that us right-thinking people can do to come together, to activate humanity together in a place with real people, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that Justin and Ray had said was how impactful it can be to hear an individual's story, and that as an in for to kind of empathy towards refugee communities is really important. It's not a homogenized group of people. Everyone has, their particular experience that's slightly different. So I'm hoping that will instill perhaps a little bit more understanding from people that might need it.
Yes, let's hope so. Thank you so much indeed. And I just want to kind of bring things slightly full circle and flag up an event that I'm going to go to tomorrow at Emont Bridge, actually, at King Arthur's Round Table. And it's a sound event. I don't know all of the details. It's been created by North Star Productions, which are a theatre company that sort of spread themselves between the Northeast and Cumbria. I'll just put a link in the chat. It's called 10 Times Table, and it's about making hay, not war, among other things. So that sounds like it ties things together very nicely. I don't know if anybody else is aware of this and is planning to go. Here we go. That's the link. Again, it's free, but yeah, they prefer you to book. They've got 3 performances at 1, 2, and 3. I think it is. It's about a half-hour experience. Yes, that's at King Arthur's Round Table, which Lorna mentioned when she was talking about the sites of the Emont Treaty. What else are people? We just got a couple of minutes. Has anybody else got anything that's coming up this weekend that they are doing or going to that other people should know about? Oh, go on.
We're planting an orchard. We're planting an apple orchard that's on a newly acquired field behind our allotment soup site on Saturday at 2 until 4. So if you would like to brave the Walney weather and come and plant your flag on a tree for an orchard, we would love to see you there. There will be soup and hot drinks and places to hide if we get the snow that was slightly forecast.
Yeah. Anybody else shout up with anything this weekend that people should know about?
Chris, it's not this weekend, but it's next weekend.
Yeah, good to trail ahead.
Yeah, there's lots going on at Full of Noises, and this thing that I'm going to, it's called a sharing event. Simon Bradley, the artist, Magna Opus, and it just sounds interesting. I've put the link in chat. It sounds like it's a bit of work in progress. It's obviously stuff to do with sound, but about maps and landscape, and just sounds interesting. But yeah, you could combine that with the Art Gene if you're down there, and have a look at Full of Noises website because they've got loads going on at the minute. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all going on in Barrow, but it's not all going on in Barrow. Lots of things happening elsewhere as well, but certainly seems to be a bit of a hotbed at the moment.
Can I just say my writing workshop at Goslin Psych is happening this Saturday. It's sadly, well, not sadly for me, it's fully booked this time, but there's another one in June. Look at the Cumbria Wildlife Trust website for details. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was very fast. Just explain a little bit more about what people would experience there.
I'm used to adverts at the end of things where it all crams it into the end. I'm running a nature writing workshop at Goslin Psych, and this is ongoing as their writer in residence. So they're spaced out throughout the year. The website has details for booking. The next one's in June. The date has misplaced me, but it's around the solstice. And yeah, it's always great. We get outside, come back inside quickly if it's weather like today, and then write lots of lovely stuff.
Sorry, I'm trying to post that link to the 10 Times Table. For some reason, it's wait a minute. Here we go. I will get to you shortly. Anyway, if you just Google 10 Times Table Penrith, I think it'll bring it up. It's on Eventbrite. Um, Cultural Bazaar on trail ahead for the 18th of April. Thank you very much, Janet. Okay. Right, splendid. Thank you all very much for attending. Have wonderful weekends, whatever you're getting up to. There we go. Meg's found it for me. Splendid. I should mention that Meg is also one of our current mentees on the See It to Be It mentoring project. We had a very fruitful gathering the other week, and there'll be a little bit more information about how that project's going in future Friday calls. So normal service should be resumed next week with Tom back in the throne. I'm sure he'd be very pleased to hear about the introduction of crowns into the concept of English kingship.
Just before we finish, Chris, I think
Yes.
Julie had a hand up there.
Oh, beg your pardon. I'm not seeing everybody. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, that's all right. It's just I popped it in the chat. Next week I'm doing a poetry reading from my poetry collection. It is in the chat, and there'll be some of my embroideries which are also in the book. So that's in the chat, and there's a link there. That's in Kirby and Furness.
Marvelous. Okay. Anybody else I've missed wants to flag anything up? No.
Just before we finish as well, I think Meg is. Oh, there we go. Anne's already replied to Meg's comment there in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne.
Everybody linked up. Splendid. Marvelous. Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. We might be finishing a minute early or so, but it's been really lovely to hear from all of you. Thank you very much, Lorna and Mark from Westman and Furness. Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Meg and Joe down at Artgene. Okay. Thanks very
Nice to
much.
see you all.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah. Stop recording.
Lovely. That was good.
Have you stopped recording?
Oh, I have not.
To save a bit of editing on